In recent times, we've seen a lot of change in how BI is being presented and taken to the customers. We've seen vendors doing things like embedded reporting, where people are now expecting reporting and analytics as part of the applications. We're seeing things like automated analytics, where we expect the BI tool to interpret the data for us and even give us natural language output based on what was read in the data. We're also seeing vendors using BI as part of their modernization, where instead of having to do a new reporting environment, they would use BI tools to provide the reporting, the insights, the dashboards, and even allow the customers to get value out of operational analytics as part of the application. The role of Actionable Insights is also playing a bigger role. BI today is not there just to present information. The crux of BI today is to allow people to make decisions, and to have that you need information. It's also not just about making decisions but executing on those. So the importance of embedded reporting, embedded BI, and having actionable insights traced is very important in these platforms, and we're seeing products like Yellowfin allowing you to follow through with workflow, track and trace, and all the activities related to making decisions and executing on those. We're also seeing a trend where people are believing dashboards to be dead. I don't think they're dead, but I do think the way they will be consumed in the future will change. We're seeing a change in the way that mobile is being executed. The term snacking comes to mind, where people do use their mobiles to gather information. They do not do analytics on a mobile. They would read and find snippets of information, and they would actually want to act on that. And it allows them to do this in times where traditionally they wouldn't have had access to that information. So we're seeing a big change in the space of embedded BI, mobile BI, and how that's being presented to the customers today. Things that will change BI in the near future, let's talk about 2020, are probably related to the way that embedded analytics is being pushed by vendors. We've seen consolidation through some of the big companies that have acquired some of the smaller vendors, the likes of Salesforce that acquired Tableau. We saw Google that bought Looker. It tells us two things: that the role of BI is becoming way more important. The value of BI is perceived to be very important, and we do see that with these guys investing a lot. That landscape, I believe, will change in the future as we will have more and more consolidation happening. We will still see a couple of niche vendors that will operate in very specific areas, but for the bulk of it, BI will probably be dominated by 5, 6, 7 major vendors in the long run, like we've seen with most of the ERP applications today. We're also seeing a move into packaged applications, and what do I mean by that? Where information is sold either as a bundle, as part of an application, so the vendor or the customer will not buy a vertical product like any of the BI tools. They will buy a solution. That solution was built using a platform, the traditional BI stuff, but very much focused around solutions and information that's very prevalent to their specific niche area of business, which changes the landscape on how people are consuming BI. We've also seen swap out of BI happening, and by that I mean we've seen some of the bigger vendors, the likes of Oracle BI, that have discontinued their product sets. They've changed some of their product sets into other products, where they are forcing people to move from traditional legacy platforms into some of the new vendors, and that on its own is creating an opportunity for the vendors that are left. So we will see some change, traditional people moving into newer platforms. The term actionable analytics also comes to play. We are seeing an environment where people are not just reporting, they are making decisions, they're following through on those decisions, and all of that gets measured in one platform. It is not easy to try and maintain that if you don't have access to the information in one platform, where you've got traceability, you can follow through, and you can actually report on all the actions that has been presented to the people that need to execute on that. We're thrilled to be recognized by Gartner as a visionary player. After 7 years of participating in the Gartner quadrant, we've always operated in the niche space. We believe that the investment over the last 7 years, the continued improvement of the product, the innovation, The feedback from our customers and the acceptance within our community has allowed us to be recognized as a visionary. The investment has proved to be very successful. We're on the cusp of releasing Elephant version 9, where we are very excited for the fact that customers will now be able to even more self-service. This will include things like having free-form dashboards, having coding as part of the BI platform, where they can actually now have actionable programming embedded into a dashboard, which allows data to be captured and fed back into a traditional system, completing the feedback loop. We're also seeing lots of enhancements on the visual aspects, and as always, improvements on performance, connectivity, and the way that Elephant will be taken to market.
So one of the really interesting topics, I think, in reporting and analytics and business intelligence is this desire for organizations to want to take action from their data. And I think there's been this huge hurdle traditionally for organizations to be able to do that with the reporting tools that they have today. And so let's sort of decompose that a little bit and think about, well, what do people actually do? And fundamentally, there's two use cases. The first use case is around decision making and sort of strategic analysis, and that is, taking the time to slice and dice your data, understand your business, and therefore make recommendations about what to do next. So that's one use case. The second use case is the far more pervasive one, which is around operational analytics. That is feeding data to your entire organization, so process-oriented workers who need to react to that data and to do something specific to do their jobs well. And in both cases, analytics supported in different ways. So for the first one, when I'm trying to understand my business and I see something in the data and I gain some insights, what really needs to happen is I want to make some recommendations, and I want to take those recommendations to the right audience in my organization. And the way I do that today is I'd cut and paste and stick it into Word, I put it into a presentation, into PowerPoint. But what really happens is that I now have broken the data lineage, and people will lose trust in the data because they go, how did that data get there? What filters did you use? How did you get there? And they'll spend more time asking you about the data than the recommendations. And so by having within your BI tool live data, live reports that fundamentally support your recommendations and your insights, makes that process far more trustworthy, far more governed, and far more secure. On the operational side, on the other hand, we're now delivering data specifically to people in the organization. And what happens is there's a disjointed workflow. So you pump data, whether it be a report, whether it be a dashboard, and that gets delivered to an operational worker, but it's not actually connected to the transactional systems that they use. And the result of that, this disjointed workflow, is that the organization actually has no control about whether or not people act on that data. How do I know that you actually called those 20 people? How do I know that happened? What did I send you last week? Have you reacted to it? Have you updated the CRM? Have you updated, the risk management product, etc.? And that inability to react, and especially if you're building whole data science models, have done all this prediction work, that's a real problem because you've got no control and you don't know the value that you're losing, the opportunity lost, nor the risks that you're losing because of this process. And so in that example, you want to be able to build action directly into the data that you're sending them. So you want the ability for a process worker to be able to click a button and to know directly what to do because of what you've sent them. And so in both cases, the ideal is that you close the loop, is that the end-to-end process that you envisage of how you use data to make recommendations or how you use data to take action and to create more sales, etc., is a single integrated workflow for both parties. And that's what action in using analytics means for me personally.